Hello and welcome to the Monday episode of GHTV. I'm John Pattee.
And I'm Requeza Reyes. Today we have newly elected Guelph-Humber Vice President John Kokkoros in the studio, and John and I will discuss food on campus. But first, here's James with the weather report.
Thanks, Requeza. We've had very interesting weather this week. A healthy combined front passed over us from the east and is making its way back out, but thankfully that brought us some warm weather. We've had a balmy day today with highs reaching 15 degrees and some isolated showers. Tonight, expect the temperature to stay at around 6 degrees with a chance of rain throughout. Tomorrow, a bit cooler. You'll see the sun poking through a bit more, but you'll still want to hang on to that umbrella as there will be a chance of rain. On Wednesday, it'll be sunny, reaching a high of 9 degrees, and Thursday we'll see temperatures hitting 3 degrees as a high. We're then expecting the highs to reach double digits again by the end of the weekend. Back to you, John.
Thank you for that, James. We're now going to send it over to Laura Laurenco, who's sitting down with newly elected Guelph-Humber Vice President John Kokkoros. Laura?
Thanks, John. I'm here with newly elected Guelph-Humber President John Kokkoros. Thanks for joining us, John. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So my first question is, can you describe the moment when you knew you were elected and how you felt?
Yeah, so everyone, including myself, was very anxious in the boardroom at Lakeshore, just waiting for, their name to be called. I'm super happy, but it didn't hit me for like 2 or 3 days that I actually won. When I heard my name, I wasn't really jumpy. I didn't scream or anything like that. I just heard it and kind of nodded. I was honestly more happy when I heard that Maha won because she's my friend outside of school, outside of Ignite, and I was obviously rooting for her. I really wanted her to win, and hearing her name made me jump instead of hearing my own name. But yeah, I was happy about it.
That's good to hear. So you'll be in office starting May 1st. Have you been preparing to take on this role?
Yeah, there's going to be a intro / training, I guess you would call it, that they're setting up right now. There's not a date for it yet, but Amar has been telling me to come sit in some meetings, watch and participate in some discussions about certain topics and things going on around the school, just so I can get a foot in the door and an intro on how things are run and what everything is like. So
okay, and where do you want to take the direction of your role, and how does it compare to last year's role?
So the roles changed. Right now there's a VP of Student Affairs and a VP of Student Life. Now the roles have changed to a VP of Humber and a VP of Guelph-Humber, so it's more campus specific. So the role itself has changed in that aspect, but it's still, the same thing. I'm still trying to get everything I've been advocating for done, trying to talk to as many students as I can. I said before to someone, the campaigning doesn't stop after voting week. So, I'm still going to be going up to students and talking to them. It's just not going to be saying, hey, can you vote for me?
Okay, and you just mentioned you're not going to stop pursuing the things that you advocate for. So what are some of the things that you're going to start working on as soon as you get into office?
So because I'm not in office yet, I don't know how the start works right away. But what I'm advocating for is better food on campus to represent the diverse community at Guelph-Humber, and better facilities and services. So things like accessibility, things like classrooms. They're not accessible to people that can't open the door themselves. And I have my own class, and there are other classes where someone does have a disability where they can't open the door, and when you're so invested into the class, sometimes people don't notice for way too long of a period of time, and that's just not okay. And another thing, someone brought it to my attention. They messaged me on Facebook, and they said that the Braille for the room numbers, they said some of it is wrong. I'm not sure if that's correct. I don't know. I would have to look into that. And there is also no Braille on the elevator floor numbers. So that's something I would like to look into and either fix if it's wrong or also add to the elevators.
Okay, and there's been a lot of talk from some students that go here that this year the student responsibilities, so the student reps, some of the responsibilities were taken away. What are your thoughts on this, and are you going to do anything to get some of that back?
Do you mean the academic program reps?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's something that like Maha handles right now, and she's super good at that. So she's going to be helping me like get into that and, you know, meet all the ones I haven't already. So that's something that I really want to work with her on. She's going to help me focus on the Guelph-Humber APRs. I know that they aren't able to do as much now, and I want them to be able to do more. There's a lot of things that students in certain programs are wondering why like we don't have certain things that we can do. And I feel like if you're a rep for your program, you should be able to speak up and talk about why the program that you're in and you care about should have certain things that you feel it needs.
Okay, and on the second floor of our Guelph-Humber, there's been now a new student hub that was built. Do you know anything about this, and did you know that it was being built? Because a lot of students were a little caught off guard and didn't know it was going to be there.
I didn't know it was being built, but from what I was told and from what I heard, it's a leadership hub. So it's for leaders in like societies and like APRs and things like that to go in. It's not a place to go in and, you know, chill and hang out with your buddies or whatever. It's a place for student leaders to go in, have meetings, discuss issues. If you're like head of kin society, for example, to go in, have a meeting, plan out an event you're doing, things like that. It's just easier and more accessible to be at Guelph-Humber because there's nothing like that at GH. There's just find an empty classroom, you know?
Okay, so some students have expressed that there's a lot of table space that is missing, and they have a hard time trying to find study space, and they don't think it was fair that the student hub was put here. What are your thoughts on this?
I mean, I feel like even before that was put in, like sometimes you would go there and there would be nowhere to sit, so you would have to find somewhere else. The fact that it took away some table space, it took away, I think, like 3 tables. I feel like those students that are angry, if there wasn't anything put out saying that this is being built, they should explain. They should get an explanation on why. They should get a clarification on, you know, what it's for. And I mean, they're not going to take it down and put the tables back. So.
Okay. And Amar has previously expressed that Guelph-Humber clubs, the creation of it, students aren't really involved and engaged in that as much as Humber students are. What are your thoughts on this?
For sure, I agree actually. There's a lot more students at Humber, so it makes sense that there's more people that are going to be involved. I think that there are a lot of people at Guelph-Humber though that are just unaware that you can even, you know, start your own club or do so many things. There's not a lot at Guelph-Humber like there is at Humber where you have signs or TVs saying what's happening, you know, what can you do. So Guelph-Humber's students aren't really informed in that way, and to be honest, a lot of students don't go out of their way to look it up on, you know, Guelph-Humber's website or Ignite's website. So I would like to continue doing what Amar is doing and just telling anyone with an interest, like if you're super interested in food, like start a food club of any kind or join this one that's already existing. So I do want to continue doing what he's doing with that, and I do want to try to have more promotion around Guelph-Humber. You know, it's a great university and students should be more informed and know what's going on and know what they can do.
Okay, and how do you feel about the existing Guelph-Humber clubs, and are there any in particular ones that you think need improvement?
Guelph-Humber clubs,
Yes.
like the societies, or clubs that people start?
Like societies. So, for example, Guhu Media is one of them.
Okay, so I pretty much only know like the kin one and, you know, Guhu. I know that there's ones for justice and other programs, but I've never really had like contact with them or known what was going on. I think, you know, they're great. I know that Malik, who's the head of the Kin Society, he does a really good job of promoting things, you know, raising money, things like that. I feel like GUHU is a super good platform that we have at Guelph-Humber, that any student in media can be a part of. I would like any student at all to be a part of it. If you have an interest in like having content for YouTube, let's say, and you want to see if it would work, I feel like it would be a cool creative platform to submit pieces of like skits, stuff to build a rapport for journalism, things like that anyone can hopefully like maybe submit to and build. I feel like a lot of big universities have a very popular social media presence, and GUHU and like GHTV is a really cool way to build that for Guelph-Humber.
Okay, so you just spoke about how GUHU can add some things into their program. Is there any either association or club that you think that should be started? So is there any bunch of students that there's an interest for and someone should take the initiative and start that kind of club?
Sorry. I think if you have an interest, there are tons of clubs available. Like there's too many to name. Some are very specific, some are very general. But if you had an interest in, making food and you wanted people to learn how to make food and learn how to make quick recipes, you can start a club about that if there isn't one already happening. So everyone has the freedom to do this. Everyone has the freedom to join these clubs.
Okay, well that's everything for today. Thank you so much, John. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
That was Laurenco with Guelph-Humber Vice President John Kokkoros. And so, John, can we discuss a little bit about food on campus? What do you feel, or what is your opinion on the quality of the food?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of opinions about food on campus, and before I state mine, I definitely just want to preface, I have had experience with food inside the school on campus, but also in residence in the first couple of years of school, and I personally have never had any really negative opinions with the food. I've seen, iffy quality and stuff like that with the food, but as far as, food poisoning concerns or properly uncooked, I think I've not properly cooked, I should say. I haven't had that too often, and I have not had food poisoning by any means, but I have heard of a lot of situations with friends that I know and witnessed, some quality issues in terms of residents especially. I've noticed uncooked food, like steaks, with one of my friends who I was living with at the time. And ironically, one of the people who was being considered to talk about this on this panel was unable to make it today because they got food poisoning from food on campus. At least that's what she says.
Yeah.
Obviously, no way of concrete proof of that, but has a fairly good feeling. So
Right.
it is a very ironic way to start this conversation, and
Right.
a negative way. But again, it is important to note that I personally haven't had anything too noteworthy happen to me. But I certainly hope they do hear the voice of the students, and we continue to have conversations like this so that any negative situations, like I talked about, can be reduced in some way.
And can be brought to light, yeah, because I know that they have some sort of meeting with any resident student who's there, and they are able to meet up with food services and a couple of people who work with residents, and they're able to voice their opinion out directly to food services, and so that's how they kind of get their feedback and improve on what exactly they want to have for the coming years and their opinions on what has happened in the past. Again, with you, I've had a couple of friends who had kind of undercooked meals, unfortunately, and I had food poisoning actually at residence, which is kind of unfortunate. I've said unfortunate a couple times because it really is.
It is.
And with the whole neurovirus outbreak as well, people were saying that it was definitely food poisoning. However, just because that sickness is not common in this area, doesn't mean that it can't be spread, again in this area. And they were linking it to the food in terms of, the way that they're displaying the food and how convenient it is for someone to touch one piece of food to then have, their hand off and have another person come on in and get the same piece of food, eat it, and that's how it would spread. So I guess that I knew also as well, after the outbreak, they were paying more attention to how they were displaying their food. So they were sanitizing everything, the way that they had their muffins set out before, their breads or something like that, where it's accessible to everyone. They were now being served that. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting, the change in how they're handling the food now. But in terms of variety, what do you think?
Variety, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind as a Guelph-Humber student is what we have, or lack thereof, on Guelph-Humber campus. It's a very nice little cafe we have set up on that second floor, but and also keeping in mind we are in a smaller school and newer school by standards to others. But I think for a variety and an increased variety could certainly serve us well. Nothing too crazy, because I mean, you can only kind of go up when you have only one location on campus, right? It would be difficult though, but there's a lot of ways Guelph-Humber is expanding. There's rumors of like other campuses coming forth, and there's construction happening right now. So maybe we will see those, increased food facilities coming in. But if that's not the case, if that's not included in the plan, which I would find interesting, I think there should definitely be a conversation about that and heavy consideration for that.
Yeah, I find that too, because they were saying, or they were mentioning in that interview with Ahmed here, how the prices are really high, and they thought, they kind of linked it with healthy foods and unhealthy foods. And the thing about it is that, when you're a university student / college student, majority of us, or what I'm hearing a lot of the time, is that we don't have money.
Yes.
So the last thing we want to do is spend, what we think is the high price of a meal here versus outside. But if you really look at it in this perspective, one of the girls was saying how at Subway, the meal was, or the combo was $9.
Yeah.
But that's roughly about the same price for a Big Mac meal outside of campus. So you kind of have to look at it in that perspective, because, these businesses, they still have to uphold, their market and their sales, and they got to bring that into the school. But I mean, variety-wise, like you were saying, we could have more of that. People just have to recognize the fact that prices, they might have to just stay the same, right? So.
Yeah, and we keep hearing about complaints, or at least critiquing of having more variety and specifically healthier options on campus. That's been happening since we've both been here from the start, from first year. Over that period of time, which is about 3 years, have you seen any changes and a focus on healthier foods?
Because I did live in residence for quite a bit, for 2 years, 2.5 years. I did see a change in the way that they were at least displaying the healthy foods. You were saying this earlier, so I'm kind of like taking your point here. But you were saying that the way that they're displaying the healthier foods is that before, they would used to have them placed in certain areas in the cafeteria that you wouldn't necessarily go to or go near, because it's easier for a university / college student to find something that's unhealthy appealing, because you just go to it, you grab it, you go, versus the healthier foods that were kind of in little nooks around the caf, and you had to find it. And also, I guess they thought of it in terms of, because it is more expensive, what's the point in putting more effort into displaying them, right? Because students are not buying them. But recently, especially first semester of this year, I had seen that the fruits especially were being displayed right beside the cashier area, and it was in this big array, and they had the whole farmers market billboards, or not billboards, signs, kind of displaying these, advertising the healthier foods. So I know, seeing that people at the food services and the CAF, they are acknowledging the fact that we want to see healthier foods. Yeah, so I guess, does that answer your question? I can't remember what the question was.
Pretty much, yeah.
But they're displaying the healthier foods differently versus before.
Now, as far as some of the more, I guess you could say, main meal options, if you want to get dinner, a full plate of food, how do you see that as either improving, getting worse? Do you think the options there are healthier, or is it just, they've kind of improved it in the sense of, we have fruit and healthier options, so we'll just display it better? Has there been a noticeable change for you in terms of, the other primary foods being served?
Not really. I mean, they've taken a couple pieces of the meals out, and they've actually tried to bring in, what is it called? Like more of like meatier meals. fuller meals, because before they were having complaints about proportions, right? Proportions versus prices, and so now they're really kind of packing it on a little bit more. They're also displaying the meals in front of the areas where you would be choosing them, which they didn't do before, which is interesting. But in terms of how they're changing the primary meals, that's what they're doing. I think they're adding a little bit more in there and a little bit more variety I've seen. But still, you know, when you have that familiarity and that and every day the same kind of meals, that I guess that's why students are getting that kind of repetitive feeling in their meals, and they're thinking that, you know, we need more variety, but in reality, you know, they keep bringing more variety in. It's just that we're getting used to that variety. So I mean.
Yeah, so this has been some very quality, varied conversation, but we do have to wrap it up now. So
right.
I just want to say thank you so much for watching the Monday segment of GHTV. Please do tune in on Wednesday for your news, sports, and entertainment updates. My name is John Pattee.
I'm Requeza Reyes.
And we'll see you next week.